you'd like to believe you're Superman or Superwoman, and sometimes you can't pull it all off by yourself, so you do need help, and it is okay to ask for help, and I'm understanding and learning that too. So
welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, Mental Health Counseling and Behavioral Health Counseling.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt. I am our vice president in charge of the behavioral health department. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today is joining us for the first time. We've worked with this guest for 2 years now. She is a BHIS provider, behavioral health intervention support provider, and here in Iowa with us here at Heart and Solutions. We are so excited to talk to this person because whenever we're looking at, okay, what kinds of interventions can we do for a certain type of behavior that we're seeing with a family? What kinds of interventions can we do to really bring the families together into these services that we're doing in home? We always know that our guest today will have some great information and some great ideas for us to make those sessions fun. So we've got Courtney Dewey-Broussard here with us today. Welcome, Courtney.
hi guys, thanks for having me.
Hi, we love talking to you just in general. So it's really, really nice to be able to do it here on the podcast. I feel like anytime you talk in our BHIS meetings, anything like that, you always have just such great ideas. So can you speak a little bit to that? Because I feel like you're just so creative in your in-home sessions. Can you speak to how you do that? How do you stay so creative in there?
Well, a lot of my, I guess, interventions have to deal with like found materials. A lot of them you can just use stuff that you find at home. One that I really like is the toilet paper roll bowling. So you just keep all your toilet paper rolls and you set up. It's a good way to practice like counting, math with my younger ones. It's one to practice like fine motor skills, those kind of things. A lot of them I like to do like a whole bunch of arts and crafts, especially with some of my younger clients too. Pinterest is a good idea. I get a lot of them off of there too. So I just try to cycle some through, and I always come back to some too. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I know we've talked about BHIS on the podcast before, but can you give some examples of what behaviors clients come to for services and how you then use those activities that you kind of mentioned to work on those behaviors with them?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients have issues with completing the task at hand, focusing, applying taught coping skills. A lot of them, so I try to cook or bake with my clients. It's a good family session to do, get the parents involved. That has to deal with kitchen safety and listening and following directions. And okay, well, if we miss this step, what should we do next kind of thing? Stopping and thinking, okay, if I do this, then what's going to happen kind of thing. Coping skills, like I said, I like to do a whole bunch of arts and crafts. My younger ones like to do Minecraft yoga or fitness runs. Some of my older ones like guided meditations, around those kind of things. but yeah, it just kind of depends on the client and their age and what they're going through. You kind of have to be a little flexible because you never know what's going to happen during your session either. So
Absolutely. And, you know, if a lot of people haven't heard the term BHIS. And so I just love that you're out there really putting a face to what this service is. It's such an important service. I feel like when we are looking at the lifespan of a human and we're thinking, okay, where can we make the most impact by doing these kinds of services and helping build these strong behaviors and habits? Where can we make the most impact? And it's absolutely in childhood. Though that 4 to 18 age range just makes such an exponential difference in children's lives, and it's just amazing to see that, but also to see how fun it can be, that it really is so different from traditional talk therapy and what people kind of have in their minds so often about counseling, and oh, it's going to be really boring, and like my kid is not going to sit still for that long. There is no way, right, that my kid's going to go and sit and talk to some person for an hour. And what you do, I mean, toilet paper bowling, right? I think when you
right.
say that, anybody can have that picture in our mind of stacking up the toilet paper rolls and throwing whatever scrunched up piece of scrap paper at it that we have, right? And how much fun those things can be while you're also doing, yeah, following directions and establishing boundaries within the game, and sportsmanship and that communication that's happening between team members. It's just amazing. So I love that. And how did you decide that you wanted to do these kinds of services for children? What made you want to do that kind of work?
So in high school, I knew I wanted to go into the human services field. I just didn't know what. I just knew I wanted to work with people and help people. At that point, I did internships through Beacon of Life, which is like a halfway house for women. That was a really incredible eye-opening experience for me. Just seeing all of the triumphs that those women went through and how resilient they were. And I think that kind of pushed me into digging a little deeper, not only within myself, but also kind of understanding, okay, well, I used a lot of art with them. And then I also internshiped at Bidwell Riverside Center, which is like a food and clothing pantry. So kind of seeing a different population with that as well, for people in need of help, just didn't all kinds of different help, getting clothes, getting food, just the basic necessities. So I think that was really eye-opening. And then Easter Seals, working with kids, also pushed me too. I worked at Optime for a little bit, and I liked building like that one-on-one relationship you do with your clients. So I think that ultimately pushed me to working with kids and becoming a behavioral health specialist. So
Yeah, you have a lot of experiences there, wide variety. And I heard you mention too earlier that you were talking about family sessions and like cooking with families and things like that. Can you kind of talk about like that's the cool thing with BHIS too is we get individual and family time and parent participation is required some of the time. So like what things you do to get parents involved and why that's important to kind of include those parents in those sessions too.
yeah, so family involvement is awesome, especially when they want to be involved too. I think cooking or baking or getting them in the kitchen to do some sort of food prep is really good because you are working hands-on with them in that moment. So, not only just observing, but you're working with their fine motor skills. You're, listening and following directions. You're working on positive communication skills. You're working on body language. You're working on a whole bunch of different things just by doing a simple task. And then you also get a treat at the end too. So the kids think it's really cool. I work with a family, and it's part of our session each week to plan. So what are we going to make next week for either dessert or dinner, and what materials or ingredients are we going to need? So that's also like applying the stop and think method. Okay, we're going to need this, 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 and this. We'll write a grocery list. We'll give it to mom, and then we're prepared for next week. And it really gets the kids excited because then they get to try new things. And honestly, I've tried a lot of those recipes at my house too. So
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And what a great way for kids to be able to contribute to the family, to be preparing a meal for the family, really builds trust. They say that the way that our brains are designed, we're designed around sleep and food and shelter, right? So we're designed around being near bodies of water because we want to make sure we have water supply all the time. And so preparing food for other people that we love and that are in our household and our family is such a great way to communicate, to express those feelings, and also to build trust between family members. They say the more times you eat with somebody, the more trust you build with them because the more times that you've eaten their food and they haven't poisoned you, right? So it's the same thing here with children, building that competency in a child, letting a 7-year-old make dinner with assistance in that session, and helping that 7-year-old to ask for help when they need help with the stove or with the oven, things like that. There's so many great skills that nobody else is intentionally teaching, right? Unless it's our child and we're teaching that child these things intentionally, we're otherwise not teaching children in a systematic way, the way that we're teaching children algebra, or the way that we're teaching children multiplication tables. We're not teaching them how to do these skills that are required for life. So I think it's just that much more important that you're doing those things in BHES. And now you have also experienced counseling from as a client's perspective as well. Now, what was that like after having so much interest in this field? What was that like going to counseling?
So in high school, I was pretty much the friend that everybody kind of came and confided in me to. And I kind of think about it like, okay, we got broad shoulders. We can bear whatever's on it, whatever, bring it on kind of thing. And then I think in college, taking these classes and actually applying it to your own self was a wake-up call for me. I was going through a lot of things in college. I was young and dumb and engaged at 19 to not a good person. And I tried filling a void with not good things that I'm proud of. So essentially, I looked in the mirror and I was 107 pounds. I didn't realize who I was anymore. I didn't realize, what those things were doing to me mentally, physically, emotionally. And then I just kind of said, enough's enough. Like, nobody's going to control my life but me. And so then I got help. I went to counselor. I think my first one, she really reminded me of my grandma. And I think I like that in a sense. My grandma was my biggest supporter. So I definitely miss her. But I think my first counselor, she really helped me kind of get my footing again and my confidence back of, okay, yeah, it happened to you, but what are you going to do about it now? So I think that was more of, yes, you're validating me, you're validating my feelings, but you also can't let your past control you kind of thing. You have to move on. You have to do what's best for you kind of thing. So, and then also forgiving myself, that was a big thing of, not necessarily caring about what everybody else thought except what I thought, because what you think about yourself definitely matters. So that was in college. And then I also did couples counseling with my now husband. It still feels weird to say, but we did couples counseling through the EAP service. And we both got a lot that benefited from us for doing that. A big one was communication. Just kind of what I took away from it is like checking in with the other person. Okay, this is what I got going on today. I'm really, really stressed out. I need you to do X, Y, Z or whatever. And a big thing for him was also like, love languages. My love language is different than his love language, and mine is like acts of service and, praise and that kind of thing, and his is probably praise and then physical touch too. So I think just understanding from a different perspective was a good thing for couples counseling for me. I'd also did individual counseling here and there, in between after college. I did it after I had my daughter, and I did not like him at all whatsoever. So it's a process for sure. I think he essentially told me that I wouldn't like a sales job or something like that, and I'm like, well, who are you to tell me what I would or would not like, kind of thing. So I think being a client and also being a provider, you see how you word things and how that matters too. And then I'm also starting again on Friday, going back to counseling through the EAP service. So I'm really excited. I wasn't ready at first, but I think I am ready now. I've been going through a lot of grieving with my stepdad passing away. I've had to struggle with kind of understanding why and accepting that. So I don't think I'll ever get an answer, and I just need help bridging that gap. So I think it's a good thing, especially when, you're going through a lot of things too, just to see things from an outside perspective, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so proud of you that you are starting on Friday again with individual, especially after, going through individual counseling and trying it out with one person and going, oh no, that is not the right person for me, right? That
He's
person,
not it. Yeah.
right. Absolutely. Like that person maybe was a little bit rushy, right? In terms of not establishing that rapport, building that rapport first before making statement like that, because when somebody who I know really knows me says, oh, you wouldn't like that at all, I can feel very validated. And when somebody that I feel does not know me says, oh, you wouldn't like that at all, right, I can feel very like, how would you
Put
know
off.
that? You don't know me, right?
Right.
Absolutely. So I love that you identify that, because you're able to express out loud, even just talking about it right now, that no, this is what happened. And that did not work for me. I did not feel validated by that. I did not feel like this person wanted to get to know me. I felt like this person thought that they did know me, right? They felt like they knew things about me when they really didn't. And so I love that you were able to identify that for yourself and then go, yeah, that's not for me. And I don't have to go to a counselor like that, right? I can try another counselor and be open to doing couples counseling as well with a new counselor and now my individual. I think it's such a brave thing to model in this day and age where, people are talking about counseling more, but not nearly enough, not the same way we talk about, going to the dentist. And so I just think it just takes people like you to say, no, I am a counselor and I believe in counseling because I'm gonna do counseling. I have been doing counseling. I think it's so
I think it's cool how maybe it's because of COVID too, but I think it's cool that you can be in your own home and your own comfort of your own space to do that as well. So because we did that with couples counseling and we just did it in our bedroom, and it was 45 minutes every week, and it was just a check-in. Okay, cool. And so I'm also excited to start my individual counseling for that reason too. Not necessarily having to go to a space or making it feel like an appointment, because it is an appointment. I mean, you're talking about your mentality, you're talking about your emotions, you're talking about everything. But I think it's cool when you can do it in your own time and in your own space too, and how EAP provides that support of what works best for you and your family. So
absolutely. Telehealth just really changed it so much. It changed the whole picture, being able to just do that. And especially for couples, the idea of both partners in a relationship during the workday, both taking off that time, being there, especially co-parents, right? Managing who is going to be doing childcare, all of that goes away when we're talking about telehealth. And the complications of scheduling one appointment for individual is more than doubled when we're scheduling for couples. And so being able to say, nope, it's at the house, our children are in the house where they need to be, right? We're keeping an eye on them, and we can do these sessions is a beautiful thing. So was anything surprising to you about couples therapy as you first started that process?
Yeah, it was weird at first because I've never gone to counseling with another person. And I think it was humbling for sure. I think, realizing that you are at fault sometimes and to take, accountability for the things that you say and do. And it's okay. I'm not crazy, but we all just need a little bit of help. And I'm probably a little bit crazy, but just accepting, that we're both stubborn. We're both, there's a lot of things that come with being in a relationship with somebody. And now that we're married, I mean, he's definitely stuck with me for now and ever, but just getting through those things. And I was talking to him about it earlier this week. I said, did you enjoy couples counseling? He's like, at first I didn't, just because it was just another person kind of in our relationship. But then I also gave us a lot of good tools too, just to hear from another person and actually setting aside that quality time together and spending that quality time together, even if it is just sitting there talking for an hour, so.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned the love languages and how you guys have different love languages and learning to show each other how each other wants to be loved as opposed to how you want to be loved. Can you kind of go more into how that is? I'm sure that's hard, especially if your love languages aren't the same. And
Yeah,
so he's wanting it.
mine is acts of service. So I always have this thing in my brain. Okay, I have to do X, Y, Z, da 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 by the end of the day, or I have to do this. I don't know if it's the woman's brain or whatever, but there's always a running tab, at least 27 in my head going at all times. And so if I come home and the dishes are clean, the trash is taken out, and, let's say the house is picked up. My house is never spotless, so I'm not going to say that, but it's picked up. Then if I come home, that's going to put me 10 times in 10 times more in a better mood. It's going to make me feel so much more better, because then that's 3 less things that I have to worry about when I get home. And that makes me feel a lot better, because then I'm setting aside that extra time where I have to do X, Y, Z instead of spending, time with you, which is his love language. I just want quality time. I want to talk to you. I want to communicate. And he is a very physical person. He likes that physical touch, where physical touch would probably be like 3rd on my list. So being more conscious of, giving you a kiss as I walk by, or, holding your hand while we're out in public or driving in the car or something along those lines, just to say, hey, I'm here. I see you. I love and I appreciate you. I think things that we didn't really understand were like how much praise comes into love language, and talking, thank you so much for cooking dinner tonight. I really appreciate you, doing that and cleaning up after. Or I mowed the entire yard, and he came home from work and he's like, wow, you didn't have to do that, but thank you. I very much appreciate it. So I think his aren't like acts of service, but in my mind, like, that's okay. If I do something to take something off his list, then he tries to see it from my perspective, and vice versa too. So
Absolutely. I would have taken any bet that your top love language was acts of service. If somebody said, how much will you bet me? I would say, how much do you have?
yeah.
I love that. And it's neat that you both share words of affirmation, because it really gives you that place of understanding of going, yeah.
Which has also helped our communication too.
Mm-hmm.
So just being more appreciative and saying, hey, I appreciate you doing XYZ, and just really being simple. I will say with communication, though, with couples counseling, I don't like communicating over text because text can be construed wrong ways, like not necessarily knowing how the other person meant it over text. I mean, there's emojis, there's, but you don't necessarily know connotations all the time. So then I feel like he's coming at me sometimes, and then I pop an attitude, and I'm like, well, this is the way I took it. This is the way it came across. So I think we've tried, I mean, we still talk throughout the day, but I think we try to avoid like talking about big issues over text message, because I think I can be triggered with some of those sometimes. So, and he's respectful of that.
Absolutely. I mean, that is huge, knowing how the other person can receive the messages that we are trying to send, because I can picture an acts of service person and a physical touch person, right? So you're maybe putting away all the laundry, and he's like, hey, we should be watching a movie, right? And snuggling, and you're like, I'm doing the laundry so that you can have clean clothes and we can have clean clothes, right? And then I have more time. I can relax while we watch the movie, right? And so having that understanding of like, no, this person is not denying me love by not watching a movie with me, right? They are providing me love because that's how they express their love, is by putting away all the laundry for the household. And the words of affirmation part, and that you are both in being so intentional about that, is so important, because when we're in a relationship where any party feels entitled to, oh, well, you just mow the lawn, so that's just what you do, right? I don't have to say, oh, you did a good job on the lawn.
There are specific roles. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If your partner comes to you and says and notices the lawn is done, but he has that mindset of, well, yeah, of course the lawn is mowed. It should be mowed. You should mow it for me, right? That's where so much of that resentment comes up and builds over time. And I love this idea. There's an idea of in a marriage, in a relationship, especially when you're living together. So even roommates, there's this idea of live like you are single. Do things as though you are single. If I am a single person in this house and I use this cup, I have to wash this cup, right? If I'm the only person living in this house, I'm going to have to wash that cup. I might as well wash that cup right now. Whereas so many couples, when we move in with somebody, when we're now working as a team, that team relationship can sometimes get, well, yeah, it's more efficient maybe, right? If one person always does the dishes, but that doesn't mean that that's that person's job, right? Because if the other person was living in the house single, that other person would have to wash their dishes. So I love the idea of, live like we're single, because then when somebody does an act of service for us, we really can feel that act of service. We can feel that, oh, I came home and my partner had done all of the dishes, right? And even did the dishes that I left in the sink this morning, right, from preparing the kids' lunch. And so we can really feel that when we come home expecting to do those dishes that we left in the sink. Now we can really feel that act of service that person has done for us.
A lot of that is communication, though, too, because I like a clean house. I do. I think that's probably part of, that's the way I was raised. So just having a picked up home is nice to come home to. A clean home is nice to come home to. But there's also times, and I'm trying to be more lax on it. But he'll be like, okay, why don't you leave the dishes and I will do them as soon as I get home from work tomorrow. So I'm thinking, all right, are you sure? Because there's dishes in the sink. And he's like, what's the worst that can happen? They're dishes and they're in the sink. It's okay. It's going to be fine, And I'm like, okay, I understand. So, I think at some point I am a little anal when it comes to some stuff, but he's like, all right, you can just sit down. You don't always have to be doing something. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand. But just in him saying those little things like, it's okay for you to relax. You don't always have to do something. You don't have to do the laundry. You don't have to, you can just sit down and relax and enjoy some quality time. And sometimes I'll be like, yeah, that's fine. Okay, you'll do it tomorrow. It's okay. But we definitely need to fold away and put away this laundry because it's been sitting here for 2 days. So, so just being more understanding of each other too. So,
well, absolutely. And it's trust building, that communication. So when we have trust that our partner understands that it is really important to me that the dishes are done, right? Like, yes, they can go until tomorrow so we can have a family dinner tonight or a family game night tonight. They can wait until tomorrow. But when I have trust that my partner understands that that is important to me, and that if I have trust that my partner cares that it's important to me,
right.
then I can trust and I can take that kind of leap of faith that it takes to say, okay, I'm going to actively take my brain off of the dishes getting done, right? I'm not going to think about that. And when that thought comes into our brain, right? It is an intrusive thought that comes into our heads when we're laying down to go to sleep at night, right? We go, oh my gosh, I forgot the thing, right? And we run and we put the thing by the door. And then we go, okay, now I can sleep. Oh my gosh, what if this thing happens next week, right? So these intrusive thoughts that can come into our mind. And when we have that communication and we really trust that no, that person understands it's important, has a plan to do it, I know from previous experience, has done it when they've said that they were going to do it, right? That builds that trust and that allows us to have that flexibility in our lives. And for those of us with those intrusive thoughts of like, this needs to get done, oh my gosh, I have 50 things that need to be done yesterday, right? And I only have this many hours today to do it.
I think with trust is also like, if you say you're going to do something in a relationship, you have to do it. Because, I mean, you can say over and over and over again, I'm trying to do better, I'm going to be better. But ultimately, it's your actions and your behavior that they're watching too. You can't say one thing and do another. That's not matching. So, in order to build trust, you have to match your words with what you're doing too. So.
Absolutely. So building trust is I believe that you will do what you say you will do. That's trusting another person. And self-trust, which is the definition of integrity, is the same thing. I believe that I will do what I have said that I will do, or I believe that I will do what I have thought to myself I would like to do.
Right.
And and building that integrity in ourselves, we build that trust, which builds the integrity of the relationship. And then we can function that way. We can say, okay, I trust that my partner cares about me, even though they're not spending time with me right now, and they could be, right? I trust that my partner cares about me and loves me, even if they didn't do this act of service, right, that I was hoping that they would do. But then when it comes to trust, that is all communication because we're communicating and we're negotiating out. We're doing the negotiating first. So if my partner says, oh, I have a car meeting after work tonight, right? I'm not going to be home until 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. And I say, okay, that's fine because I know that ahead of time, right? So, okay, I'm going to take care of our daughter tonight. I know I'm, on duty for everything. And that is fine because that's the established agreement that we've made. Now, if I say, well, you can't because I have, right, this other thing that's planned and I told you about last week. So, right, if that happens, now we're in a negotiation. And as long as that negotiation happens before the actual event needs to happen, right, then we're both in a good place to still build trust. So the person, if your partner says, okay, well, my meeting starts at 8 o'clock and or my meeting starts at 7 o'clock. I can do this and that until you get home, and then we can trade off all of that. And then having the trust of, okay, that is the plan. That is what's going to reasonably happen.
We are also very fortunate enough to have a good support system too. So my dad, they're like two peas in a pod. They're double trouble together. And then, you know, his mom and his stepdad, Mama and Papa, they're all heaven sent. If we ask anything, they're right there, you know. And it definitely does take a village. I will say that much. You know, you'd like to believe you're Superman or Superwoman, and sometimes you can't pull it all off by yourself. So you do need help, and it is okay to ask for help. And I'm understanding and learning that too. So.
Well, and I heard you mention you got couples counseling and now you're going to start individual counseling, both through our EAP that we offer at work. So that's also asking for help.
My son has also done EAP through counseling through EAP too, because we do 1 week on and we do 1 week off. So just dealing with that transition, going back to moms and dads, and it's really helped him too. So.
Yeah, awesome. Can you kind of go over for people who maybe have an EAP where they work, or if they're listening and work here, how is that process of reaching out to the EAP and getting started with those counseling services?
Yeah, so we go over the services every month at our team meetings. But as easy enough as it is, I just pulled up the app on my phone. Hold on. Yeah, so employee resource, and then I call the number, and then they say, okay, what are the things that you really want to work on? Like, so I narrowed it down to like my top 2 or top 3. Like I said, I really want to work on, you know, setting healthy boundaries and also working with accepting with grieving. I'm definitely going through the stages right now, and that's okay. But I just called, and so they set me up with somebody. I think she's in Florida, she said. So she seems really nice. But with Heart and Solutions, we get 6 free per topic that you want to talk about. But yeah, I'm really excited. It was really easy to get started, not only for myself, but for my son and for, you know, couples counseling too. It really is a good tool, especially when you just kind of need to talk stuff out. So being a mediator.
Absolutely. And you know, you've highlighted so many different situations where in a lifespan, these are really great times to go to counseling. I mean, if there is a good time, right? You talked about when you had your daughter, right? That's a major life change, and that's a great time to go to counseling. You talked about, you know, as you had your wedding recently, right? What a great time to do couples counseling when you're starting out your marriage. And you recently lost your stepdad, and that is such an important time to be doing counseling, to have that space carved out, to really focus on what you've lost and to focus on how you're going to continue moving forward in your life and continue to hold space for the relationship that you had with your stepdad. And every time there's grief, most of the time when there's grief, there's complex grief. And every relationship has its complexities through that grief process. And it's not always something that we think about doing when we lose somebody very important to us, when we lose somebody in our family. There are so many things to do that we don't always think about going to counseling, calling the EAP, getting set up for somebody to support us. Because especially when it's a family member, we're supporting the other family members who have lost this person. And so it's so important what you're doing, what you're modeling here for yourself, what you're modeling for your children, and for your whole family. That
I appreciate you saying that.
we need to take care of ourselves. It's important, and that we're worth it. You know, that we are worth spending the time. We're worth spending the time to take care of who we are when we're in grief, because who we are when we're in grief is not who we were before
It's
we
not pretty
lost.
sometimes either. Yeah.
No, it's not. And it doesn't have to be. And that's the beauty, I think, of counseling, especially for grief, is that it does not have to be. We walk around in this world and we are taking care of kids and we're taking care of partners and we're taking care of parents and we're doing all of this stuff, right? We're working, we're doing, and and we have to act a certain way all the time. And grief does not give a crap about any of that. Like, grief does not care.
It hits you at the weirdest times too. It
Yeah.
really does.
Uh,
I mean, I think the other day I was like 5 minutes before my session in my car and I lost it. And it's okay. You can lose it.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yes.
It's fine. I keep saying, it's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. My family laughs at me because I say that, but that's my inner monologue going. No, but it is okay to cry. It is okay to show that emotion. And, I think when I walked into my client session, I dried my eyes and mom looked at me like, you all right? And I'm like, no, but I will be. I'm fine. It's okay. And, the client just gave me a hug. And, I've worked with some clients for 2 years now. So you do have that where you can't necessarily put on that face because you built that relationship with them. But it's also, okay, no, I'm all right, but we're here to work on you. So we also need to, put this aside and compartmentalize and move on kind of thing. But it definitely hits you at the weirdest times sometimes. And you can't control it. You just can't.
Nope. Absolutely. And the things that, sometimes we'll try to do to control it when we aren't in a place of feeling comfortable enough to directly work on it in counseling, go talk about our grief and feel our grief. When we're not able to do that work, or we don't prioritize doing that work because we're so busy with all the other stuff, it'll keep punching us. It just keeps coming out in, like you said, the weirdest times and the most inconvenient times sometimes is when it will just come out. And so what you're doing, what you're modeling for your family is putting in that time up front, because that is going to give you the space to do exactly what your mind and your body and your spirit need to do right now with the loss that you have experienced. And you probably cognitively don't even know what that is yet, what you need to do.
Right. Well, and I mean, it's important for me to try to be a role model to my kids, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to, the worst, I tell my son this all the time, and I tell my clients this all the time. The worst anybody can ever tell you is no. And my dad told me that. And he said, the only person that's holding you back is you. So what you decide to do with that is on you, kind of thing. And it 100% is. I feel that with the whole grief thing, it does come in waves. I think when I first started services with you guys, I just lost my grandma. So I've dealt with a lot of grief within the past couple years, but I was at a client's house and I accidentally locked my keys in my car. And I was
I've done that at a client's house.
I've also done that at a client's house.
And I'm like, I'm running late. I was just not thinking straight. And I was so frustrated. And I go in and I tell my client's mom, and she's like, oh, we'll just call the sheriff and he'll come. I do it all the time and he'll just fix it. And I'm like, really? It's not that big a deal. I was thinking like we're going to have to get my car towed, or I'm going to have to call a locksmith, or I'm going to, my mind is going, 1,000 times a minute. Yes. And I'm looking up at the sky. I'm just talking to the sheriff. And I said, because he's having trouble getting it open. He's like, are you sure, are you sure you want me to try this? I said, yeah, my grandma's probably laughing from heaven right now. Like, you just did this. And then just like that. So I also believe in signs too. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely believe in signs and like things happening for a reason where you don't understand it.
Yes.
And those are very like intuition. Like you have to take it with a grain of salt, I think, but you also have to take it like, okay, yeah, it was a sign. That was your loved ones. They're still here. They're laughing at you, so you can laugh at yourself too, kind of thing. So
absolutely. That relationship with your grandma is never gone. It's never, ever gone. And that relationship with your stepdad is never, ever gone. And it's a beautiful thing that, we're limited in our life by things like our bodies, right? We're limited in our life by things like our geographic location, stuff like that. But our relationships are not limited in that way. Our relationships are not limited by our physical bodies. And it's just what a beautiful thing to experience, that you experienced then, because it means that you're open to that kind of thing, that kind of communication from the universe and from those that you love. And I commend you I say, stay open to that, because it will find it. And Chrissa and I 1000% believe in those kinds of things. So absolutely, we believe it. It's at some point you can't not, right? At some point there's just not a way to not believe in these things.
right.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Wow. Well, I'm so proud of you. Well, first of all, for the services that you're doing, because anytime you talk about BHIS, I'm just so excited about BHIS, and I love BHIS. But the way
I
that
love
you do
BHIS
it,
too, and I love working for you guys. I love working for a company that definitely treats you how you want to be treated. Honestly, I mean, talking about going through all these grieving things, having you guys in my back pocket or having you guys part of my village has also been taking stress off my, my plate too. So I definitely appreciate that too, because I think once you find somebody or a workforce that you do like, you definitely want to perform your best too, So I appreciate you guys too.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. And yeah, we have been through it with you. I mean, you've been through it for those 2 years, and we've been right along with you there for the ride. And we love being part of your village, and we love that you're part of this village, the Heart and Solutions Village, and doing those services. They're amazing services that you're doing. Anybody who's listening, if you live in Newton, Iowa, you are lucky. Because you're just doing amazing services. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for your vulnerability and willingness to share and model what it's like to be a person going through these pieces of life as we live, and doing those very difficult but very healthy steps of, no, I'm gonna make the call, and maybe I'll get a counselor that I don't like, that talks like they know me, which is weird, and maybe I won't, right? And hopefully I won't. And if I do, I'm gonna find a new one, because I am worth the time. I am worth that 45 minutes a week to be able to talk about what
You are your biggest project.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, constantly. It's amazing.
We're a work in progress over here.
Yes, same. Same. I mean, it's amazing, and I love being in this field, and I love doing this podcast, because I just feel I learn so much every time that we do it, and I get to hear people's stories, and I get to hear how counseling plays a role and has that piece and the thread of people's lives. It's just so beautiful. So, Courtney, we'd love to hear if you had one suggestion you might give to somebody who's on the fence about starting counseling. They're not quite sure. What suggestion might you give that person?
Don't doubt it. Just do it. Just do it. The extra help or just having somebody listen, I think, is a lot too. And just being validated from an outside perspective. Like, yeah, you are going through a lot right now. Okay, what can we do to help? Just do it. Don't doubt it. Just do it.
Perfect. Good advice. And if you are in the Newton area and you are interested in BHIS services with Courtney, you can look her up on our website, heartandsolutions.net, for our 800 number, 1-800-531-4236.
I'm Courtney Dewey-Broussard, and I need a counselor.
Awesome.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. Now, we want to hear from you. Text us or give us a call at 515-650-3231. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236.